Hi! So today I'm going to show you how to paint cosmetic roses on your face for Valentine's Day, maybe a Valentine's dance or a date. And we're going to start by showing you what I've already drawn. So this is the design that I'm intending to make today. As you can see, it's actually this way round, but I'm going to draw it around this eye because I find it easier to draw on my right side, obviously because I'm right-handed. So I'm actually going to be drawing it the other way round, but when I look at this picture, I'm looking at it as if I'm drawing it in a mirror. So it actually makes it easier for me to draw it the wrong way round as it faces away from me, but it actually looks the right way round as I'm facing it as if I was drawing in a mirror. So that's always a good tip when you're sketching out your own makeup looks. So really for this look you're not going to need a lot of stuff. Obviously I've already put a base down, I've already got white under my eyes, I've already got a red blush on because I'm going to do the roses in red. But you're not going to need a massive amount of body paints or other things to be able to do this yourself. They're quite easy things to get hold of to make your makeup look that extra bit bougie. So before we start, I'm going to show you exactly what I've got in front of me on the table here and what you might want to use at home to be able to recreate this look. So first I've got a white eyeliner pencil. Now mine is slightly sparkly white eyeliner, so when I draw it on my hand you might be able to see it's kind of shimmery. This is because if any of the outline that you're going to draw with this is left, it just means it looks like kind of a faint sparkle around the piece of art that you've done. It doesn't look like an outline after you've finished, okay? So I've got the white eyeliner, which is what I'm going to draw my basic outline with first. Next, I've got a tiny little paintbrush. As you can see, it is very small. This paintbrush, it was maybe £2 from the range. I mean, or you know, you can get them from anywhere, but the smaller the better really. It allows you more control over what you're doing. Obviously this will depend on how big you want your roses. If you want bigger roses, you use a bigger brush. And to make the roses, I have in front of me 2 lipsticks. So I have Sucker Punch by Jeffree Star, and I also have Designer Blood by Jeffree Star. This is just to kind of show you what one looks like in a darker red and what one looks like in a brighter red, so you can make your own decisions about which one you prefer or whether you want a mix of two. Obviously I'm going to be drawing 3 roses today, so I'm going to do 2 in the brighter and 1 in the darker. I also have in front of me Morphe liquid eyeliner. So this is what I'm going to be drawing my thorns with. I've gone for quite a Rococo style thorn on my design, and this is what I'm going to use to achieve that. The last but not least, this is something you can add if you want to, but I also have different sizes and styles of rhinestone here. So the first one are deep red teardrops. The second ones are just bright red and they're 4mm, they're the larger ones. And then I've also got bright red 2mm and they're the smaller ones. It's just to give like a variety. When you're adding rhinestones to your face, you tend to find that several different sizes or even shapes look really nice together and blend really nice together. As you can see again from the picture here, I've actually drawn where I might place them at random, or I might decide to do this randomly at the end, so we'll see what happens there. Basically it's about choosing the best placement that works for the shape of your own eye. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually map out this rose shape that I've got in front of me. So I actually have it balanced in front of me now so I can see it, and I'm going to map out some of the shapes. Now before I start like getting really detailed, I'm just going to look in this mirror here and I'm just going to sort of map out where I want it to start and where ideally I'd like it to end. So obviously you can see it's quite difficult to see, but you can see those 2 marks. So the first mark is here and the second mark is here. That's just going to give me an indication of how I want this to look. So obviously I want it to curve around my eye and sort of act as highlighter on this plane here. As you can see, I've got no highlighter on currently. Obviously I will be putting highlighter on this side, but for now I haven't put any on. So the next thing I'm going to do is map out where I want my roses to be. So I'm going to sort of just draw circles, and I'm sort of going to make these circles the ideal kind of size that I'd like each rose. So again, I do apologise that you can't really see it, but obviously you can see where I'm drawing it. You can see where I'm drawing it on my skin, and I will kind of try and move my head around a bit so you can see that shape there. So that's going to be my first one, and obviously I don't want that one to be too big because that's my smallest one. So obviously roses are quite natural things, so it's not 100% that this is the size it's going to be, but this is the ideal size I would like it to be. Okay, so the next one I'm going to bring here, and this one's going to be slightly bigger, so you could probably see where I'm drawing through my blush. That's where my second one is going to be, and that's the kind of ideal size that I'd like that one to be. And then my third one is going to be here, and you can see that I've already gone past the mark that I made to begin with of ideally where I want this to end. So I'm actually going to bring it further out so it comes right under my eye now. Obviously this is dependent on how big you want the roses, but because I want to show you how this looks, it's probably better that it's a bit bigger, so it's going to act as like a cover around my eye. I could bring it down here I suppose, but I'm actually going to bring it higher up to the plane of my face here when I'm done. Okay, so now that I've got sort of my roses mapped out, 1, 2 and 3, so they're quite big roses. You can do them a lot smaller than this, but for the sake of showing you what I'm doing here, we might as well make them quite big. So the next thing I'm going to do is show you how to map out the thorns. Now I'm just going to show you this picture again. So with the thorns you can see that they're sort of twisted around each other. There's a really easy way of doing this, and it will become more clear as I do this. So I'm going to just do that now. So you've just got to think of them as 2 separate branches. So I'm going to start with the first branch coming around here. So I'm going to wiggle it under, and then it's going to come into that kind of heart shape there. So this is really subtle. You could use a better pencil than this. Obviously I can see it off camera, so for me it's kind of ideal because you're not going to be able to see it when the rest of my makeup is on. But obviously for the purposes of this tutorial it can be quite difficult to see. Now I'm going to do the other one, so I'm going to start at the other side of the rose. You can see I've started here and I've gone down and swirled. This time I'm going to go up and swirled. Now obviously my eyebrow's quite high, so I've got quite a lot of real estate here to work with, but you could actually bring this over your eyebrow if you needed to, and sort of stop at your eyebrow and then sort of carry on around, or just draw straight through your eyebrow. I think it always looks quite good. So you can see there I've made like a sort of love heart shape with them. So basically the thorns are like opposites of each other. And again there's a little bit of space here, so I'm going to bring this one in like that. And I'm going to bring that one out like that, so I've almost like just crossed them over. Then I'm going to do the same for these two to connect these 2 roses, as I'm going to bring the one like that and one like that, so they're just like crossed over in the middle there. And then for this last part I'm going to then go down, up, down and swirl at the end there. Now because I know that this is part of the love heart shape I want on this side, I'm going to start from here and go for a swirl there, up, down through there and round. The beauty of this is it doesn't have to be like massively perfect or accurate, because roses are natural organic shapes, so you can create your own natural organic shape. Obviously you could make this a lot smaller, or you could only add 2 roses, or you could start down here and work your way up here to make this not curve around your entire eye. But for the purpose of this I might as well leave it as it is. So I'm actually going to just go in with the roses. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to draw the roses first. So I've got my little paintbrush and I've got my Sucker Punch lipstick. Now the reason I use these lipsticks is because they are matte and they are eye safe. I mean, you're not necessarily going really close to your eye, so you could use a different one. It's not like you're actually putting this red in your waterline, which you could with the JSC ones, but not with all others. but matte dries, so the best thing you can do is find something that is going to dry after you've painted it on, because the worst thing is if you're going out, you're going to get a bit warm, this is going to come off so easily if you don't find something that is going to dry matte. Okay, so all I'm going to do is unclick it like this, and this paintbrush is actually small enough to stick in here so I can get as much product as I want, or I can just take it off the dough foot here. If you hear any disturbance on camera, it's because my cat has decided to join us, which is amazing, you know, just what everyone needs when they're trying to do a makeup tutorial. Okay, so the first one is here, and what I'm going to do is show you basically how I draw a rose. So what I do is I start in the centre, and I make sort of like a swirl, like that. Okay, so it's a very small little swirl there. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect because roses are natural, so it's sort of like a curve or a swirl, and then I'm just going to bring two shapes around that swirl, and then this shape is quite far away, so what I'm going to do is just fill it in a little. So basically you started with this little tiny swirl in the middle, and then you've added one on the outside and one on this outside to like encapsulate it together. And then what I tend to do, because you have two petals facing this way, is do one on the top. But as you can see, I'm sort of making it uneven, so it's not like perfectly on the top, it's sort of over to one side, and then I can add more onto this. So obviously the only annoying thing about this is you are going to have to keep replenishing the paint on your brush, but you kind of expect that when you do makeup. So then you just add in another petal like that. And it's basically a case of sort of going around that centre point and going around that centre point until you're happy with what you've got there. So again, I made another petal there, so they're starting to get a bit more wavy as opposed to just straight lines. And then I can thicken a few up, like so, to make it look more natural. And obviously all that time I'm just checking where that line is that I drew about the ideal size that I want this rose to be. So that is something I'm taking into consideration while I'm doing this. And as you can see, I'm literally just adding little petals to kind of make it even. So I'm quite happy with that. Obviously it's quite a simple rose shape, which I think is quite nice because you've got a simple line to also go with it. So you can see that I've just started with that swirl, and I've just sort of worked my way out until I'm kind of happy with that shape. The circle is actually there, so that's kind of the ideal size that I wanted it. Obviously in places like here it has come out of the circle. This is because obviously a circle is quite a geometric shape, whereas a rose is a more organic shape, so they're not always going to meld perfectly together, but it just gives you a basic idea of the kind of size that you want it to be. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and paint the rest now without talking, so you can just watch this process again over the next 2 times that I do a rose. Okay, so now I have the 3 roses drawn on. You can see they're not perfect, they don't really have to be. From a distance you can still tell they're roses. You could add more than one colour into one rose, but actually leaving areas of skin actually helps this. If you have darker skin, you probably best using a lighter colour. You could also use a really light highlight and paint the roses along a light highlight to make it easier for you to be able to see the roses. Obviously I've got really light skin, so I don't really have that problem, but if you do, you could actually use like a white highlight and then paint the roses along that white highlight might help. Obviously P. Louise quite often do videos where when they painting eyeshadow on darker skin, they use a lighter base so the eyeshadow shows up better. You could also consider doing that. Obviously my under eyes are lighter than the rest of the skin that I've done today. That could also help you if you have darker skin. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the thorns. So basically all I'm going to do to begin with is sort of just follow with my eyeliner the marks that I've already made. It's going to depend on what eyeliner you have. You can see that mine has something on the end, but mine is quite thin, so it's going to make it easier to make a thinner mark. Obviously varying the type of pressure you're going to apply to this will help. You can start by just checking on your hand. Obviously I've got tattoos here, so it's quite difficult, but you can start light and then get heavier and light again to make those kind of marks. Obviously with this again, thorns are natural things, they're organic in shape, so you don't actually have to worry too much about this being perfect, because it doesn't actually have to be. In fact, the imperfections kind of make it more sort of realistic and believable, as far as I'm concerned anyway. So I'm going to start with this top piece here, and I'm just going to start at the edge of this rose and slowly just work my way around the shape. You can see that I'm not even fully finishing a line. I'm finding what is the easiest angle for me to draw this at and go in for there. Okay, so I've ended up with that first shape there. My eyeliner isn't the best, it does run out a little, so that is quite frustrating. It means I am going to have to keep going back over it if I want a really black line. I'm just filling in some areas as I do that as well. So you can see there I've got the first shape down, and then the second one comes up like this. And I'm just going back over that and fixing any areas that just look like they need a little touch up to make them perfect. Now, the frustrating thing for me with liquid eyeliner is that you do end up, you know, like the swirls that I have on this picture here aren't really there, you know, like these little bumps in here that I have drawn out. Well, you can't really get them with a liquid eyeliner unless you're really fortunate and you've got a good one. So what I'm actually going to do for this is I have a black liquid lipstick here, JSC Weirdo, and this is just going to help me get that little bit more accurate. So I'm just going to clean off my brush like so, and I'm going to use this to just make any details and actually add the thorns, because I have more control and a smaller brush to do this with using this than I would with the liquid eyeliner itself. So the liquid eyeliner is great for getting that initial line, but I'm actually going to go in with this just to make it perfect. So you can see that I've got quite a lot more control with this. So I'm actually going to go ahead and do the thorns now. Now, the way I draw thorns, I draw like a few facing one way and a few facing another way. This kind of helps it to make it quite even and nice. You'll find out what you feel is best for sort of what you want to do. But this is the way I like to draw thorns. So I'm going to start sort of up here, and I'm just going to draw one curve in that way. And then I'm going to do one curve in the other way. Now thorns, they don't have to be completely accurate, so long as you've got one or two that look quite sharp. The rest of them look sharp by comparison. It also just depends how many you want to add on, really. I'm just going to add them on at random intervals and see whether I'm happy with it. So you can see each time I'm drawing one, I'm considering what angle it would look best at. So I've literally just curving some one way and some the other way. I'm also, when I'm drawing them on the other side of the stalk, not drawing them directly together. So I've not drawn one at this point here, I've drawn it a little bit further along the stalk, and I could draw one here if I wanted to, just so they're not like level with each other. It kind of makes it look a bit more realistic because it makes it look a bit more natural. So I could draw one here. Because thorns don't grow this way, that way, this way, that way. They grow wherever they want. So you're trying to recreate that as best you can by making it look the same. So I'm just going to draw a couple in this area here. Again, I'm not making them look exactly yin and yang, because they wouldn't be. And there you can see I sort of have like a thorny line there. Now this line's quite thick. If you wanted to do the whole line thinner, you could use the brush for the entire thing and the black liquid lip. I don't mind the thick line. It is a little bit thicker than the roses. Obviously, if you go over a rose like I have done here, I mean, to be honest, for me, that's not really that bad. So I'm not going to bother doing it, but all you need to do is obviously make sure you have more than one brush or a clean brush, and just brush that red back in. If you do want to use more than one colour to do your roses so they look fuller, you could use a extreme light and an extreme dark. So for example, you could use this dark one here for your petals, but you could actually fill in first with a lighter shade. I'd probably suggest lighter than this one even for this, possibly like a pink or a pastel purple. And then you could literally fill that circle that you made in with that colour, and then paint the petals over that area. Okay, so I'm just going to paint the rest now, so you can get an idea of how it's going to look when I'm finished, and just so you can sit and watch how the process is done. Okay, so now we have this full shape drawn on here. As you can see, it goes a lot further along than I was intending to have it. You could do this by making it tighter or adding less roses, or maybe even overlapping a couple of roses. But I just wanted to show you how to get in between the roses and make the rest of that shape. But it has come out quite nice. Obviously, I could have started further along the lid of my eye here and moved it along, or I could have started above my eyebrow here and moved it round to make it stop here. So there's lots of different ways you can do this. It's actually quite similar to the design, which I think is why I ended up with this shape, because it ends here and starts there, which is practically exactly the same as I have mine. It's like a mirror image of that. So you can see it is quite similar. What I'm going to do now is add some rhinestones and just show you some rhinestone placement to show you the easiest way to do that. But before I do that, I'm going to add some highlighter. So now that I have this on, obviously it's going to take a while to dry. If you are concerned about the time it's going to take to dry, you might want to powder it down. However, obviously with putting a brush on there and powdering it, there is also a chance of transferring it or smudging your imagery. So the real best thing to do is kind of just wait for it to dry and then add some powder when you're convinced it is thoroughly dry. So yeah, I'm just going to add some highlight now because, you know, who doesn't need a bit of highlighter on the other side now that we've got this on this side, and down my nose. So I've just got a setting mist here and I'm just going to wet my face to make the highlighter stick better. Okay, and while we're still got the moisture there, I'm going to use this honey palette here from Primark. I love this one, it's really glittery. So yeah, I'm just going to add that and I'm just going to dot a little on this side. Obviously you can see it's quite strongly pigmented, so I'm just going to add a little to my nose and a little to the centre of the bridge of my nose there. And I'm actually just going to now wait for my face to dry before I blend that out. Obviously, with me being really pale, highlighter can be quite difficult, especially coloured highlighter to add. So if it is really looking, I mean obviously at the minute you can see it's just one big blob. When I blend it out it should blend out quite well, but if not I can add some white highlighter to that to sort of blend it out a bit better. So now that my face is starting to dry, I can start thinking about blending this out. So I've got no more on the brush other than the stuff that I already had on there, and I'm just blending her out. As you can see there, I've got like quite a nice goldy glow, and I'm just going to get my finger and really blend this area here, and there's quite a gold glow there. Obviously blend it out on my nose as well, and I'll hit the Cupid's bow later on when I put my lipstick on. So I'm sort of just creating the same shape around my eye that is on this side to try and make it look a bit more even. And I can add some more blush as well if I wanted to, just to sort of meld those two together there. So you've got that kind of melded bit there. Obviously with this gold it is really gold, which is quite nice. And you can see that I've sort of hit up here and here as well with it. So next we're going to move on to rhinestoning. So I tend to start with the biggest rhinestone and work my way down to the smallest, therefore you end up with enough space for all stones that you want to add. I'm going to add my rhinestones with the green duo glue. If you don't know about this, this and the blue one are probably the best ones to stick rhinestones with. The latex based ones will just pull your rhinestones off, they won't adhere very well to your face. So I've just got cotton wool bud to apply them with, and I'm just going to wet that a little bit to make sure it's going to pick up the stones. So I'm going to start with my large teardrop stones here, and I'm just going to add a teardrop to each of the roses. So what I do before I even pick up any of the stones is obviously apply the adhesive. So we're going to have a drop coming off this rose here, so I'm just going to add a bit of glue, a drop coming off this rose ear here, so add a bit of glue, and one coming off here as well. So I've glued those three areas. You can probably still see it is quite luminous looking, the glue. It kind of stays that way until it dries. So obviously with other rhinestones you might find that you can place them whichever way around you want, but obviously with teardrops they need to be the right way. So just make sure that you're adding them the right way around, but obviously you probably already know that and I'm stating the obvious. And you can see there that now I have the 3 teardrops coming off my rose. So I've kind of just considered for this where gravity would be acting on each one. So obviously on the 2 bottom ones gravity will be acting from the lower point, but on the top one gravity will be kind of acting at the same straight line here. So they're not just all like in the same area. And then I'm going to add one more sort of coming off in the middle to kind of show like the trajectory that would be where the teardrops would fall. So if there was to be another teardrop that fell from these roses that was already falling, it would probably be further down. So I've just got this one here and I'm just going to add that there to sort of show the trajectory of where it could fall. So those 3 are attached and this one's falling away from the roses. Now that I have the biggest gems in place, I can think about the next biggest down, which are obviously my 4mm bright red. And I'm just going to think about where I'm going to place each one of them. So I want relatively large areas of skin that are going to obviously be flat enough to hold a 4mm gem. So I'm thinking maybe here on the furthest point out of my look, here, here, and here. So you're thinking of inside and outside. So I'm going to start with those 4 and see how it looks. Obviously, once you've stuck them on, it is hard to get them off, so just start little and work your way up. Obviously, I like quite a lot of stones because I'm just that girl, but not everybody does. So you just got to think about what look is going to look best for you and whether you really want this amount of rhinestonage on your face. Okay, so I've got those 3 on. You can see they're a slightly different shade to the teardrop ones. And now that I'm looking at that, I can see that it could probably do with a few out here as well, just to make that look more cohesive. So I'm not actually following my image for this. I am just placing them at random, which kind of works for me really. I never have that much problem with placing stones at random. So I'm just going to add another 2 around this area here. So 1 under my eyebrow there, and 1 here. So I've just sort of evened that out a bit now. Now you could leave it like this, but I think that the smaller stones actually do make the look a lot better. You'll see what I mean in a minute. So I've got 2mm stones here, and these are in the same shade as the bigger ones that you've got there. So what I'm going to do is just start placing glue to add them. Obviously these are a lot smaller, so you could put them like places like in between your thorns. So I'm going to put a couple in between the thorns there to start with, and just build up in stages of how many I want. Obviously with this being a tutorial, I'm adding several, so you could sort of see where they could go without placing them yourself. And obviously you can see there they're a lot smaller than the other ones, so they kind of just give a more subtle sparkle to the whole entire look. And I'm just going to add a few more now. So I kind of want one near this other big one here, because it just kind of makes it look a bit more randomy. Obviously it could do with one further out here, so maybe there, maybe one just here as well, and maybe one there. So I've started with the bottom few that I'm going to attach on. Obviously, as I say, you can remove rhinestones once you've done this, but it is quite difficult because you are going to be left with a patch of glue. So it's not really recommended, which is why I'm adding quite so many now, because then you can sort of decide what kind of level you want to be at with your own rhinestones. You don't have to add as many as I have now. So I'm just going to add a couple more in this area here to try and make it look a bit more full, because at the minute it looks quite quiet. It looks quite quiet over here. So I'm just going to add a few more in. So obviously I've added another one there, another one there, and another one there. So you can see that now the smaller ones have sort of brought together, that the bigger ones don't just kind of look plonked there, if that makes sense. There is more purpose to them. Obviously my lighting's not great, so I'm having to move around a little bit to show you how that looks. Again, because obviously this is a natural shape, you want to kind of just place the rhinestones wherever you feel like it, because it does make it look more natural, the more sort of random you are. So obviously just bear that in mind when placing them. Also, a sort of kind of funny hint to mention is that sometimes I will put glue down and forget where I've put the glue, because I've tried to put too many on at once. Because obviously the glue, even though it is kind of slightly luminous and slightly visible, you can't always see where you've put it. So you kind of are kind of best off just doing little by little. Obviously, like when the glue starts to dry, you can't see it as well. So obviously this is quite a lot. It won't look quite so much when I've put my eyelashes on and my lipstick. It won't look quite so crazy, but you could definitely add less rhinestones to this than I have if you wanted to. So I'm just going to place one more of these little 2mm ones now. Right there. And that's kind of giving me enough life, to be honest, enough rhinestone life. So you can see obviously I've got my gold highlight at this side and I've got my rhinestones that side, and it's sort of making kind of all the difference to the look. Okay, so now I have a lash on, I have my hair down. Once you have your hair done, it does make all the difference to your makeup look, as does a good lash. So you can see that there is quite a big difference between how I looked before and how I look now by doing a couple of simple things. If you're not comfortable wearing a full lash, I have some in my eyelash holder in case of emergency, and they're just small pieces I've cut off full lashes, and I just add those to the outer corner to give a little bit of lift, and they also make quite a difference to your look. So really all there is to say is that by the time that you end up in your outfit feeling good, you have a lash on or you have your hair done or anything like that, it's going to bring this sort of makeup look to life. So what started out as simple lines for the roses have become so much more. I chose to use the Designer Blood, the darker red, on my lip and add a bit of highlighter over that. So it sort of ties these two together, but it doesn't take away from the look around my eye. But essentially it's about feeling good and doing what you feel comfortable with. If you just want to do one rose, if you want to do a rose here and here, you know, it's entirely up to you. It's just about making yourself feel good. But I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial today. Sort of vampy, Valentine's inspired look. I hope that you've enjoyed learning how to attach everything and sort of bring it to life, and I hope it's helped you to feel fabulous. So I'll see you on the next one, and happy Valentine's Day. Bye guys.